Good morning. Welcome to a tertiary world. This morning I'm reading the last few memories from Amess Street, which is the third north-south street. The stories evolved from the performance, which was a walking performance, walking down each street from beginning to end, and then allowing the memories to emerge and writing them down in sequence as they emerged. This is memory number 4, outside 287 Amess Street, and the colour is green. One late afternoon in 1964, a month or two before we moved from Amess Street to a house a couple of streets away, I was standing outside number 287, where a friend lived. We were going to do something or other together, but he had not arrived home yet. I was distractedly sitting on his brick fence, as young boys do, letting my thoughts wander. At a particular moment, a woman passed by. She must have been walking home from work, as many people did then. She passed by me and with a steady gait continued down Amess Street towards Pigden. All along the street, the sunset's orange rays were lighting flecks of roof tiles on the eastern side of the street, turning them into many smouldering fires. The east-west axis of the setting sun must have been perfectly aligned with Pigden Street, because its flooding light perfectly intersected the deep shadows engulfing Amess Street. As the woman crossed Pigden, she was suddenly set aglow, only to be immediately engulfed by shadows once she reached the other side of Amess. I followed her movements, fascinated by this ritual, repeated at the crossing with Richardson Street and then again with McPherson. I tried to concentrate my sight, but she was now very small, and I would lose her for a few moments, only to find her again. I watched what I was imagining was her all the way to Fenwick Street, where I believed she turned the corner into the setting sun and was gone. The fifth memory, the colour is blue, outside 262 Amess Street. In between football and cricket seasons, we'd run the most in order to keep fit for what was to come. On late spring nights, Kerry, Danny, me and a few other boys would get together after dinner and go on a run. We seemed to just materialise out of the shadows under the streetlight opposite my house, all at the same time, and just start to run. Often to the Merry Creek, then to High Street, along Merry Parade, down Queen's Parade, and back along Scotchman Street, all the way to Amess. This was the perimeter of our immediate world. Other nights we would head straight up Nicholson Street as far as we could go, and then downhill back home again. We would talk all the way, somehow managing to run, talk and laugh at the same time. Some nights the effort would get to us and we would be serious and grim, and all we could hear would be panting and swearing through gritted teeth. The next day it felt like you were walking on feathers. I've never experienced anything like it. It was as though one's feet somehow contrived to glide just above the ground. Somebody thought we should start a competition to see who could run the furthest distance. So we'd measured the block around Amess, Pigden, Canning and Park in my cousin's odometer. He drove a Triumph, carefully watching the mechanical turning over of numbers on the dial. We would then calculate the distance covered, run by multiplying the number of completed laps by 1/2 mile. I briefly held the record, 30 laps or 15 miles, finished with a sprint. But then Kerry broke it a couple of weeks later with 32 laps. He was almost apologetic about his methodical approach, his fanatical dedication to every detail of his preparation, his shoes, his shorts, his sweatbands, his water bottle. 2 decades later, I ran into him in Brunswick Street. He was dishevelled, his body destroyed through the use of drugs he'd needed to help him cope with an overwhelming anxiety. He wore dark glasses and carried a broken down guitar on his back. At the mere mention of the night he broke the record, a broad smile suddenly beamed through the grimness, weighing him down, and for a moment we were back in Amess Street, standing under the streetlight, unhurriedly grinning at each other. Sixth memory, Indigo, the corner of Amess and Mary. Mary Street was a narrow laneway that led directly from Amess Street to the shops in Nicholson Street. Lined by the brick walls of 2-storey houses, I believe then it closely resembled the streets of a small Italian city, and this greatly cheered me. We would walk it each day. My mother and sister walked through it to reach the Nicholson Street pharmacy they both worked in, and I walked to get to anywhere. I began to know the people living in the houses lining it, and greeting them felt comforting. I also liked the street's simple name very much, Mary Street. In summer, shadows were sharp and angular, the walls hot, and the street always empty. In winter, the shadows were much longer and softer. Rain dripped from every gutter and downpipe, and individuals of all ages seemed to crowd it. Because the street is so narrow, you can't avoid a close proximity to whoever is walking towards you or behind you. Back then, this meant that everyone had to greet each other or somehow acknowledge each passerby. I guess this is what this does. It brings back fragments of your life which have in them material substance that's still alive, and you don't expect to react to that, but you do, and I welcome it. I welcome the alive parts of me that are buried deep inside. It's a little bit like spring. I walk around my garden thinking that it would be miraculous if green shoots actually emerge from twigs that look dry and dead. And then they do. My garden is full of new life. We become so used to it, it's the miracle we always forget about. New life. It's also Father's Day today, and I wish a joyful day that all the fathers have with all their children and their loved ones. It's difficult being a father. It's difficult being human, but it's difficult being a father. I wish us all good luck in our quest for fatherhood. Until tomorrow, for the last memory in Amess Street.